In this tutorial we're going to create a website inquiry form. Now first things first, we need to create a page first for our contact form to go on. So here's a blank page that I've created, which is going to be my contact us page. Now once we've done that, what we're going to do is we're going to download the plugin itself. So we need to download the website form plugin. So log into the Selfie website client area and click on the plugins section. And within that we want the website form plugin. So we click on the more info button. That will take us through to a page that gives us some more information about this particular plugin. Now we just need to simply click the blue download plugin button, and that's going to download a zip file to our computer. Now the zip file is the plugin itself. We don't need to open it at this stage. What we need to do is go back into the back end of our website. So we're going to click on the top left there to go into the dashboard, and it's within the plugins section. So if we click on that link there, and we're going to be adding a new plugin. So if you click the blue button at the top of the screen that says add new, and we're going to be uploading this plugin, so click on the link that says upload. And you're then given a choice to choose the file, so click on that button to browse for the zip file that we've just downloaded. Now this will open a window from where you can choose the file that you've just downloaded. So you want to choose a download section, and that should show you the zip file that we just downloaded. So the CP Easy Form Builder, that's the name of the plugin that we're going to be using. So double click on that, and then simply click the Install Now button to install that plugin. Now that's going to take a moment or two to install. Once it's installed, you should get a message that says something like this: installing the plugin installed successfully, and then a link here to activate the plugin. So let's click that link, and that's going to activate this Forms plugin for us. Now once activated, under the settings option in the toolbar, you'll see a new option for CP Easy Form Builder. Now that is our plugin that we've just installed. So if we click on that link there, that's going to take us through to the actual form builder itself, and we can then go about the process of building our form. Okay, so we've now installed the website form plugin itself, so we're now going to go about the process of actually creating this form on our website. So we've got a number of fields here. Firstly, we've got a form name, so let's just overtype that with a name for our form. I'm just going to call this website inquiry form, and click update just to update that name. And then by clicking the manage settings button, that's going to take us through to the actual form builder itself and allow us to configure the settings for this particular form. So at the top here we have the builder itself, so this is going to allow us to create the form itself. On the left hand side here we have a number of different options and fields for creating our form, and on the right hand side here is a preview of what our form is going to look like. Now that's the section we're going to be concentrating on for the next couple of minutes, but if I just scroll down the page quickly, what we've also got on this screen is a range of different options and settings that allow you to configure your form in exactly the way you want to. Now some of this we're not going to need right now. We're just going to go through some of the headline stuff that you need to be aware of, and I'll sort of briefly cover some of the other points in terms of what is included in this form a bit later on. Okay, so let's go about the process of actually building this form. So when you first start out, you probably have a number of default fields already created. Now this gives you kind of a basic structure for a form, but we're not going to use these. We're going to start completely from scratch. So let's just, if you highlight the field in the preview screen, it will highlight itself, and you'll have a little trash can icon in the bottom right hand side of the screen, and that can be used to delete that field. So we're just going to delete all these just to start from scratch, just going right back to basics. Okay, so first of all we've got the actual title of a form. So this is what your website visitors are going to see. So it's currently saying contact form. I'm just going to change that just to say contact us, just to make it a bit more personal. And then some default text there. It says you can use the following form to contact us. I'm going to leave that as it is, but you can overtype that by simply typing in the description here. Okay, so we're now going to add a few fields to our form. So within this section here, as I mentioned, we have a number of different field options. Now just to give you a quick overview of what each of these are. Single line text just allows your users to add a single line of text, so it's great for a kind of adding a name or perhaps a company name. Email relates to the email address, so it allows someone to enter an email address. Now if you're going to ask your website visitors to add an email address, it's really important to use this field and not the single line text. The reason being is, we go down a little bit further, what we have as part of the settings is the option to copy the website user in. So when one of your visitors submits their form, you can say yes, you'd like the website to send them a copy as well, and that will be based on the email that they put in the email field, and that will only work if you use the email field. So just be sure to use that if you're going to ask your website visitors for an email address. You've got a text area, which is very similar to a single line of text, apart from the fact that it gives them more space. Radio buttons gives you a range of different options to choose from. Upload file allows your website visitors to upload a file. Phone field allows someone to add a telephone number in. Section break allows you to sort of break up the form into different sections. Number is very similar to a single line of text, but it allows someone to add an actual number in. We're not going to be using that one for purpose of this demonstration. Date, again, just allows someone to put a date, and it will give you a sort of a calendar to allow your website visitors to actually choose a date from a calendar. You've got checkboxes, which again allows your visitors to choose from a number of different options, and you've got drop down list, which again allows your visitors to choose a number of options from a drop down list. Now we've just got things like adding a password, if you're going to be allowing your visitors to create passwords, instructional text, and a page break. Now some of these we're not actually going to use for purpose of this demonstration. We're just going to stick to single line text, email, text area, and I'll just show you the difference between things like radio buttons, checkboxes, and drop down lists. There's probably a lot to take in here. You're probably not going to need half of these options, but they are here for you depending on the type of form that you're looking to create. Now we're just going to be creating a very simple inquiry form, so we're just going to use a few of these fields. Okay, so that's a brief explanation of some of the different fields we have available. We're going to start with just a single line text, so let's simply click, so simply left click that button, and that will just drop in your field here. Now if we now left click on this field, you'll notice the screen on the left changes to give us the field settings. So these are the settings that relate to this particular field. So as you can see, it's telling me this is the single line text field. It gives me the option to give it a label. So currently, as you can see, it says untitled. Now, that's not going to mean anything to our website visitors, so let's change that to your name, to prompt people to put their name in here. You can also change the field size. So currently it's set to medium. If I change that to small, you'll see that the size of the box in the form reduces in size. If I change it to large, you can see it increases in size to the full width of the form itself. So I'm going to leave that as large. If you want to, you can specify a minimum and maximum length of characters. I'm not going to do that. So essentially all we need to do, just to get a form set up, is add a label and just define your field size. You can specify if it's a required field or not. If it's required, it means it has to be filled in. So if your website visitors try and submit a form and you've got a required field which they leave blank, it will throw an error message to say you just need to fill that field in. So I'm going to choose required for this field, so they are prompted to put a name in here. Okay, so that's the first field done. I'm just going to add another one now for their email address, so we're going to use this button. So left click on that button, and that will drop in a field to allow people to put in their email address. Again, if we left click on that field, that will give us some settings that relate to this email field. field label already says email. I'm just going to say email address, but feel free to change that to whatever you want. I'm going to make this a required field, so I'm going to make sure my visitor is actually going to add an email address in there, just so I can contact them and reply to their contact query. I'm going to change the field size to large, just so it's consistent with your field above. And that's the next field done. So let's now go back and choose another field. This time I'm going to drop in a text area. So again, left click on the text area button and that will drop in a text area. As you can see, the height of this box is double that of the single line of text. That just allows people to put in a bit more text here. So this is ideal for prompting people to put in their comments or a question they may have. So if we left click on that field, we're going to change this field label to your comments, just allow our visitors to put in some comments in there. Let's change the field size to a large, and we'll make that required because there's no point someone submitting a contact form if they don't put any comments in there, because we're not going to know what they're talking about or what they're asking for. So let's make that required, and I think we are pretty much done now. The only other things I wanted to show you were the difference between things like radio buttons, checkboxes, and a drop-down list. So let's add some radio buttons in now. So if we left click there, that instantly drops in our radio buttons field, and if we click on that option there, you'll see we've got a few more options to fill in here. So again, we're going to give it a label. So perhaps we'll ask where people heard about us from. So where did you hear about us? Question mark. I'm not going to make this required this time. This is just an optional field that my visitors can fill in if they wish to do so. And if we just have a look down here, this gives us the various different options we have available as part of the choice. So if we change first choice and overtype that to say newspaper advert, and as you see, as I'm typing, it's changed the option here also. We could change that to perhaps TV advert, and the third choice we could change that perhaps to internet search. That's just going to give me a bit more information about where these guys have come from. Now if I don't want three options, if I want perhaps to add another option, I can simply click the plus button to add another row in. That's going to give me a fourth option. And perhaps we'll do Google search. But then what if I want to take one away? So perhaps Google search, that's a bit too similar to an internet search. So if we just click the minus button, that's going to delete that field. We can chop and change, so we can have as many options as we want as part of that field. So that's the radio buttons field. If we now go back and add in checkboxes, you can see what the difference is. It's very similar in that they now get to choose from a range of checkboxes. Now it works in exactly the same way, and the only difference is from a user's point of view. With radio buttons, they can choose one option, whereas checkboxes allow people to choose multiple options. So perhaps there may be a couple of different places where someone may have heard about us from, and in that case we want to use checkboxes because we want to give people the option to choose perhaps a number of different options as opposed to just one. So we just click on that option. As you'll see, it works in exactly the same way. So we have a field label and we have various different choices or the options that people can choose. Now a drop-down list works in much the same way as the radio button, so it allows someone to just submit one particular option. So if we just click there and drop that field in, as I said, it works in exactly the same way. So if we click on that option there, we've got the same field, so we've got the label and then all the different choices, but this time it will drop down, so it will give us an actual drop down list, so the user can click on this arrow here and all the options will appear underneath. So it's a great way of essentially doing exactly the same thing as this field here, but what it's doing is hiding all the different options. So it's perfect if you've got perhaps 5 or perhaps even 10 options. Rather than have 10 options listed here, you can just compile them all into a drop down list, so they won't appear until someone clicks this arrow. So a great way to sort of hide all those into one. Okay, so they're the basic fields that I wanted to sort of show you now. So the next stage is now to configure the rest of the form settings. So with our form effectively built, we're now going to start configuring the settings of this particular form. Now before we do that, I'm just going to scroll to the bottom of this page, and there's a blue box at the bottom that says Save Changes. So we're just going to save those changes now before we go any further, just to make sure that's all saved. Now maybe if you're building a particularly long form, I'd strongly recommend you sort of go down to the bottom and save those changes as you're creating it, just so you don't lose any of your work as you're building it. Okay, so now let's start configuring some of the settings for this form. So first up, we've got the option to overtype the submit button. So by default it will say submit, but we can change that to whatever we want. So we could change that to say request quote, or anything we like. Now generally people expect to see the button that says submit, so I'm just going to leave that as submit. We now scroll down a bit further. The next key area we need to fill in is the actual processing of the email settings. Now this is going to define where the email goes to, so this is a pretty important section. So first of all, we just need to change the actual from email. So this is going to be essentially where your email comes from. So you'll probably want to have that as your own email address, so info at your firm name. So whatever domain you have, I'd recommend you just use that one, and it's one that people will be able to reply to. So when someone does submit a form, that if they want to reply to it, it's actually going to go to a someone with that email address. So an info at or inquiries at is generally a good choice for that one. Destination emails is where you want it to go to. So again, it may be the same email address, so in this case it's coming from info at selfiewebsites.co.uk, but we also want any submitted forms to go to info at selfiewebsites.co.uk, because that's where I want to pick up any website inquiries to my generic email address. Now it says here comma separated, and what that means is if there are multiple email addresses to which you want the form sent, you can do that by simply adding a comma in between. So if I just delete this for a moment just to show you. So if we now put a comma after the first email address, we can add someone else's email address. So someone else at selfiewebsites.co.uk. And then if we want to add someone else, we can do that by simply adding another comma and putting someone else in there. So another person at selfiewebsites.co.uk, and you can do that as many times as you need so that your form is submitted to everyone who needs to receive a copy of it. Now email subject, again we can overtype that to whatever you want. So this is going to be what you're going to see. So this is going to be what comes into your inbox. So you can define the subject of the email. So you want to probably overtype that to be something that you're going to recognize as a form that's come from your website. So perhaps just simply website inquiry, or whatever it happens to be that relates to this particular form that you've created. Include additional information, I would strongly recommend you leave it as yes. That just gives you a bit more information on the actual email that comes through. Now you have the option of adding a thank you page. We'll come back to that in just a moment. I'm just going to skip that for a minute and just take a look at message. Now message is going to be the actual email that comes through. So when you get your email in your inbox, this is the wording that you're going to see come in. Now this bit here is the actual information that your website visitor has submitted. So it's really important you leave that in here. If you delete that or change that, you won't get any of the submitted information. So if we just leave that one alone, but above here we can type whatever we want. So in this case I've just popped a bit of wording in here to say, hi Matt, here's an inquiry from the website. but we can change that to whatever we want. So we could change that to say just website inquiry, or we could just leave completely blank. It's completely up to you what you want to put in there. Now, just going back to the thank you page, what this allows you to do is when someone does submit a form, you can define where they then go. Now, by default, it will probably be your home page. So what will happen is when someone does submit an inquiry form, they will then get directed straight through to the home page. Now, you may not want that, and it might make more sense for them to go through to another page where it just says thanks for submitting a form, and any other additional links that you want to put on that particular page. So what we're going to do is we're going to save this form as it is currently, and we're going to go ahead and just create a page for that purpose. So if we now go to the pages section, and I've already created a page in advance, so this page here called thank you. Now if we just go to the editor window, you can just take a look at what I've built so far. I've literally just given it a name, thank you, and we just added some wording here to say thanks for getting in touch, we'll come back to you as soon as we can, because this is what people are going to see as soon as they've submitted a form. Now you can do whatever you like on this page, so you can add some images, you can perhaps add some links to additional information, you can direct your users somewhere else, you can do whatever you want, so it's completely free reign. So I'm just going to take a look at this page now by clicking view page so we can see what it looks like. And this is what people are going to see after they've clicked the submit button. Now if we now go back to the editor screen, we now need to copy the URL, and that's this link here. So this link that says permalink, this is the URL we want to copy. So we're simply going to highlight that by putting our mouse at the far left hand side of the email address of the URL website address, hold down the left click left mouse button and simply just drag across the whole of that web address. If we right click on that, we can then just simply choose copy. If we now go back to our form itself, so under settings and CP Easy Form Builder, let's go back to the manage settings screen, and if we scroll down to the processing section where we were before, this section here, thank you page, we can simply highlight that and overtype that with the web address that we just copied. And what that will do is that will take people straight to that page after they've submitted their form. Now there's a few more settings we now need to configure, so let's take a look at some of those. Okay, so just a couple more settings we need to configure before we can actually deploy our form on a website. So the next section is, do you want to email a copy of a form to the actual website user themselves? So if you want to send a copy to the client, you can do that by simply choosing the yes option, and that will send a copy of their form to them, so they've just got a copy for their records. Now here it's saying which field do you want to use. Now it will be the email address, which is why it's really important, if we go back to our form, if you are adding an email address, it's really important to use this field, because the form will pick up this field, so it knows who to send a copy of the form to. Again, as we saw above, we can change the subject of this email that the client's going to get. You're probably going to want to have it something that's different to the copy that you're going to get. So something like, thanks for getting in touch, or your inquiry through selfie websites, or words to that effect. Again, we've got the option to define the message that our clients are going to see, and again we can change all of this wording to whatever we want, but it's really important that you keep this as it is. So the info bit, leave that as it is, because that's going to give them a copy of the actual information they submitted. Okay, so with all that configured, we can then choose if we want validation or not. Now validation means, if we scroll back up, if you remember when we were building our form, we had the option to say, is this field required or not? Now if you tick yes, that is where validation comes in, because if they then leave a field blank, if you use validation by selecting yes, the client will then get a message on the form that says please enter whatever it is they need to enter. So if they've left a text field blank, this wording will appear to say this field is required. Now if you want to, you can overtype that with whatever information you want. So if you want to give them a bit more information about what's required, you can do that. However, as a sort of basic level, we're just going to leave this as yes, and we're going to leave all this as the default settings. But you can overtype any of that if you wish. Now our next section relates to CAPTCHA. Now CAPTCHA is similar to this code here, and you may have seen it on other websites where before you can submit a form, it asks you just to enter certain special characters just to confirm that you're a real person and perhaps not some kind of computer program just trying to submit spam through a website. Now I'd recommend you use it just for that very reason, that if you don't use it, you have a potential of getting spam coming through your form. So you can avoid that by using CAPTCHA. But then you can define what you use as part of your CAPTCHA code. So you can define the number of characters. So as you can see, currently it's set to 5 characters. And you can choose things like the height of the CAPTCHA box, the width, the font size, how much noise there is. The noise relates to the background, so all these funny bits in the background. So we reduce that to say 50. That's going to reduce all of the kind of background stuff. As you can see there, it's reduced a little bit. If we change that to 300, it's going to get quite busy, as you can see. So I'm going to make that quite clear. So I'm just going to leave that as 50, so it's a bit easier for my clients to read that. And you can change things like the font, border, all sorts of stuff. So feel free to have a little play with that if you wish. But I'd recommend you leave that as yes. However, it's completely up to you. So if you do want to change that, you can do that. Let's scroll down a little bit further. And that is all the settings configured, so we don't need to do anything else. Here's a little note to say how to insert the form into your page. But rather than use this, I'm going to show you a better way to actually insert a form into your page. So with all those settings configured, we're going to click this Save Changes button just to save all our changes. And the next step, now we've built our form and configured it, is we need to actually drop it into a page. So let's take a look at how to do that now. So the final stage in actually adding a form to our website is literally just that, adding this form to a website page. Currently we've constructed a form, configured all its settings, but we haven't actually put it onto a page anywhere. So to do that, what we're going to do is click the Back to Items list, which will take us back to the main kind of menu of CP Easy Form Builder. And this section here, it says short tag for pages and posts. This is the actual form code itself. So if we highlight that by simply left clicking, holding down the left mouse button and just dragging all the way across, and if we right click on that, we can copy that code and we can drop that in any page we want, and that will drop that form into that page. Now you can add this form on as many pages as you like. So if you wanted to put it on every single page of your website, you could do that. However, it's probably more common just to have a single page, which is perhaps your contact form. So if we go back to the pages section, I have a page that I've already created for my contact page. So this page here, we go into the editor window. Now all we need to do is simply paste that code that we copied into that screen. So we can do that by simply hitting Control V on the keyboard, or you can right click and choose paste. Now it doesn't look like a form, admittedly, but if we update that, and if we now view the page, what you'll see is a complete copy of a form that we've just created. Now the great thing about this is you can now go back in and change that form, and it will change directly on this page. We don't need to recopy that repaste that code in. So For example, if perhaps we wanted to change this field here that said your comments, perhaps we wanted to change that to say subject, for example, we can do that really easily by going back into the back end of our website. And all we need to do is go to the settings and CP Easy Form Builder. If we go back into manage settings, and as you can see, this is our form. Now, as this field here we wanted to change, so let's just click on that field and let's change the label itself to say subject. Don't forget to save that change, so scroll down to the bottom of the screen and hit Save Changes. And if we now go back to that page, there's no need to copy that code again. We can simply go back to the page and that will have updated the form automatically. So let's just go back and view that page. As you can see, that field is now changed to say subject. So we can do that as many times as you want. So we can chop and change fields around, we can add new fields, whatever you need to do to finish off your form or to make any changes, you can do that directly through that form builder. As I said, you can also copy that form onto any other page on your website by simply copying and pasting that code that we did a moment ago. And again, any changes you make through the form builder itself will automatically flow through to all of those forms. Now, another option you have is you can create as many forms as you like. So perhaps you wanted to create a contact form, but you also wanted to create a request a quote form. So we can go back to the Easy Form Builder, and if you want to create another form, all you need to do is simply go down to the section here, it says New Form, give your form a name, so let's call this Quote Request, click the Add button, and as you can see, that's given me another form here, and all I need to do is simply go into Manage Settings. That's going to allow me to create that form here. Now, if I go back to the items list, in order to actually pop that form onto a page, what I'll need to do is this time copy this code and drop that into the page I want it on. So that is a basic overview of how you can create a very easy contact form on your website.